Okay, the title of this one is going to be number 146. A very long and boring video because that's exactly what I'm about to shoot. So, it's got a lot on my mind. My thoughts are kind of scattered. There's been a lot going on the past month or two, and I just wanted to sort of speak some things out. Why am I doing this? Well, for the same reason I do a lot of my videos. These are mostly for me to come back to maybe a week from now or a year from now. I've been going back to some of my videos that I put out 2 to 3 years ago, and it's just helpful to sort of look back, almost like a diary or a journal. That's kind of what this channel is. But obviously it's also a little bit of it's a public diary for a reason. I make these videos public because it adds a kind of pressure where anybody can see it. So I have to be more careful about what I say. But also these aren't really made to be, the title and thumbnail of this video, right? It's the anti-clickbait. It's just going to say long and boring video. So if you're listening to this right now and you're not me, well, you know what you clicked on, hopefully. Anyway, thoughts. Let me start with this. I obsess over this particular strain of leftist philosophy. I obsess over it. And it's not really clear to anybody why. It's not even clear to me why. Here's what I think it's because I'm worried that if this leftist philosophy takes over the country, that I will die. I think that's really what, at the deepest level, makes me concerned about the words that I hear coming out of the people's mouths that consider themselves kind of on the side of pro-trans rights. If you're a pro-trans rights person. So part of the reason I'm thinking about this is because last night I was just kind of having a somewhat of a debate with a Twitch streamer who's in the Melee community, and he was saying, I got all these trans. He was saying that he has trans friends that he feels the need to protect from bigots and racists like myself, right? Like that's what, from his worldview and from the worldview of many of these people, they believe that I am an existential threat. Me saying that trans women are not women, that is an existential threat. And I get that. I think I understand where that thought process is coming from. But the problem is that I also think that thought process is the same thought process that causes communist revolutions in other countries. I think it is Marxism/communism, just redefined and relabeled with new terms and new language. So really, what I'm telling people like that when they're defending trans rights or whatever they think they're doing, I'm telling them, actually, you are participating in a form of a communist revolution that is attempting to take over our nation. And if it does take over our nation, we will all live in a communist hellscape. I believe that to be true. I think that's the truth, which makes me sound like a crazy person to a vast swath of people. Like thousands or millions of people would listen to me say that and say, that guy is completely out of his mind. And I get that. I understand that perspective. I'm just telling you what I see. And it's very, very hard to make the argument. It's very hard to have this argument, have this debate. It's so incredibly difficult. Because it goes back a century. It goes back to, I think it's not a coincidence that Karl Marx and Charles Darwin were contemporaries, that they were intellectual contemporaries. I think the issues on which they were speaking, on which they published their books, are of equal depth. I think they were both touching the same depth. Because, which way should I go here? Should I go that way or should I go this way? I'm going to go this way. Yeah, I told you this is going to be a long and boring video. I'm going on for a while with this one. I'm only 5 minutes in, but I just got to get this off my mind. So, yeah, I think that if you go back 150 years to the 1850s to 1890s, in that range, I think the human collective consciousness was at a certain place. Like Nietzsche said, God is dead, right? He said all of that back then because I think that basically science killed God. We proved that there is no, immediate physical God, right? And then so we had this loss of the overall structure and we replaced it with a few things. And I think Darwin was one of those people. But the thing is, Darwin's right. We are animals. Look at my skull. Look at my hands, my eyes. Everything that is me was built through an evolutionary process. And so that doesn't mean God's not real. I think it just means God built us with evolution, is what that means. So I wish I had this YouTube channel 10 years ago when I was more than 10 years ago. I wish I had this when I was 15, 16. I wish I could have expressed myself then, back when I was a very hardcore atheist. I wish I could have said what I believed back then and then compared to what I believe now. That's, again, part of the reason I'm doing this channel. Put up these videos, I put them up on YouTube where they can stay forever. 10 years from now, when I'm 42, I can look back at this one, May 4th, 2025, and say, okay, what do I still believe? What do I disagree with? 15-year-old me would have said God's not real. I think 15-year-old me was basically misunderstanding himself, is really how I would see that. I think if you call yourself an atheist, you're lying to yourself. Everybody believes in God. Everybody. Every human being. At least if you're not going to say they believe in God, they have the tendency to believe in God. Or they have... Well, this is where the conversation gets out of control. And I think this is also where the trans debate comes from. It's in the same spot. It's at the same layer of depth. We're sitting here arguing over transgender rights, but I think we're also arguing over things that go as deep as the meaning of life, really. It's the same conversation. That's why it's not really... This is why I stand so... That's why I stand so strongly against this stuff. I've always been a Darwinist from a very young age. From as early as I can remember, I thought evolution was the most interesting and exciting thing. It's why I studied genetics in college. I thought DNA, genetics, the story of evolution, animal development, plant development. I studied plant genetics primarily. If you just look at the way, if you just think about the way that this structure, if you think about the way that the structure of plants developed over time, it's already a fascinating story. Already, without even getting to animals and neurons and neuroscience. There really is a structure to reality, and evolution meets that structure. It creates within that structure. And then when you think about where our brains came from, this is the problem with these debates. So I was just talking to these other guys who are on the other side of the situation, where they're not trans rights activists, but they're right-wingers who all believe in God and the Bible, but they still have a problem with Darwin's story. They still think that Darwin's story contradicts theology, and I still don't think that's true, because I think, the problem is, if you're having a religious debate, you're having a debate about the nature of our consciousness and where that came from, you have to include neuroscience. You can't have a conversation about God and God's influence on humanity and individually and collectively without also having a conversation that involves the structure of the human brain. And if you look at the structure of the human brain, it was developed through an evolutionary process. That's, to me, not debatable. So any conversation involving theology must include Darwin. Any conversation involving almost any subject you can think about must include Darwin, unless it's purely math or like an engineering debate, like how do you design a car to roll forward or whatever. That you don't have to have Darwin in that conversation. You don't have to have Darwin in conversations about business or whatever. But when it comes to morality, you have to include Darwin in a conversation about morality, because our morality actually comes from evolutionary forces. It's like I was saying this to these guys in this conversation earlier today, that why does it feel bad to treat your fellow humans badly? If I steal something from a friend, I feel guilty. Where does that guilt come from? They might say God, but I would say God put guilt into our bodies through evolutionary forces. I would say other mammals feel the same feelings we feel, like guilt and shame. There's a feeling you get when you do something good, when you help a friend, or you help your family. When you help somebody, you get positive vibes, positive feelings. That's not taught to you. It's not a social construct. It's an evolutionary adaptation. It makes sense. I mean, when you think about it, just real basically, helping somebody helps you in the future. It is, this is kind of comes back to the selfish. Is there such thing as a selfless act? Because if I help you, I'm just kind of in the back of my mind expecting that you'll help me, right? And not even that. It's not even in the back of my mind. It's like me helping you kind of intrinsically helps me. If you do better, I do better, assuming that we are friends or allies or family members in some way. So it just makes sense why we have these feelings. You can explain them. Yeah, to me, the problem is with all this, I feel like I'm the only one that really, really believes Darwin is right. I feel like that, just constantly. In conversations with the left and right, I feel like I'm the only one that takes Darwin seriously. I've been saying it to all my friends. And whenever we get into these conversations, I sound like a crazy person. I'm not crazy. Right? But everybody thinks that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see a way in which Darwin is wrong. It just seems like we are derived. We humans we have common ancestry with chimpanzees, and I don't know how exactly we got from chimpanzee to human, or from whatever ancestor to human, but we did. It happened. And it was through natural or sexual selection. It was through a selective Darwinian evolutionary process. I think that's true. It's incontrovertible. Look at your hand. Look at it. Look at your face. Look at your body, your skeleton, all your organs. It all is the same as a chimpanzee's organs. We're barely different. We're shaped a little differently, and our brains have a larger neocortex, but that too is explained by Darwinian selection. It makes sense that the neocortex would grow. There's nothing here that requires any other kind of religious explanation, in my opinion. And that doesn't disprove the existence of God. It just means that God created us with evolution. That this was always we were, however you want to phrase it. I don't think it makes sense to say, oh, God set up the equation 2 billion years ago. I don't think that makes sense either. I think it's just, God exists outside of time. To put God in time is to already put a limitation on the infinite, right? So I don't know if any of this makes any sense, but whatever. It's a gray day today. Kind of rainy, a little drizzly. It's a little cold. You can feel the humidity in the air. The air smells good though, especially right here with all the plants around. Yeah, I like doing this. I like shooting these videos. It helps me think. It helps me to look back and listen to myself, to just sort of, it's helping me understand myself. I put out all these videos and I don't know what other people generally think about them. I know that with some of the videos, I sort of intentionally contradict the leftist ideology that I hate so much. Yeah. I have intentionally contradicted what I regard to be a Marxist form of thinking on the left, because I protest it. I do not want it. I oppose it. I believe it would kill me and everybody else. Even if you're on that side, I believe you don't truly want what it leads to. I don't think even communists really wanted what happened when communism happened. Like, there's an idea of what they think it is, but then it happens and it creates a hell for those who oppose it and for those who support it. That's the problem. And I see this trans rights thing as that's what it is. It is leading to a communist revolution. I know that not everybody sees it that way. Even people on the right don't see it that way. I call it Marxism, and people on the right are like, what are you talking about? That's just what I see. I think it's neo-Marxism. It's a new form of Marxism with new language. It was, who cares how it was created? It's here now. And it has taken over such a crazy part of our culture. And it has to do with sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia. Those are the 4 concepts on which it rests. I mean, I've talked about this so many times on this channel. I'll just keep talking about it. I won't stop talking about it. It's been about 5 years. About, maybe 4. And I feel like when it finally goes away, I'll be done talking about it. People tell me, oh, you're obsessed with this, you're going to be obsessed with this forever. But no, I'm only obsessed with it to the extent that it's real in our society. And I think that there is a reality in which it goes away. I think. I mean, it's 2025. Trump has been in office for about 3 months now. A little longer. 4 or 5. Yeah. And, you know, he's, there's a reason that Trump became so popular, and I think largely, yeah, it is a reaction to the left-wing nonsense. And it's not liberal nonsense. Everybody calls it liberal. It's not. It's a leftism that is not liberal. Maybe it's not Marxist, but it is also not liberal. Okay, 16 and a half minutes. Is anybody watching this? Am I the only one that's going to be watching this? I tried stand-up comedy recently. That was exciting. That was very fun. Possibly one of the most fun things I've ever done. It was the previous video I put out. One of my rare, unnumbered videos. But, yeah, I went on stage and I did 3.5 minutes of comedy. And people really laughed. I know you can't really tell on the video. But what I was saying was actually kind of killing. Which is, like, pretty surprising for my first real attempt on stage there. I think I just got up and said things that were so shocking. And I said it so sort of forthrightly that it sort of just made people laugh out of the reaction to it rather than anything. I mean, the jokes weren't that good. It was mostly just, I was having a good time up there, and people in the audience were really having a good time too. And that felt really good. It was one of the most exciting, fun things I've ever done with stand-up comedy. So I'm absolutely going to try that again. And what's funny about stand-up too, here, and this is a good thing to talk about. What's funny about stand-up is that I feel like I actually have a different approach to it. Again, like here's, you want this to go way off course. You want this to get a little narcissistic. I mean, what else is this other than a channel about me? Am I a narcissist? I don't know. I was thinking about this a couple hours ago. Yeah, I feel like at a lot of times in my life, I've always been that one outlier that sort of approached things differently. I'm not saying I'm special. It's just that I would be the one kid, for example. Maybe this has something to do with the fact that I was always really short when I was younger. I mean, the doctors were telling me that I was not even going to get past 5 feet or whatever. Like, you know, those growth charts, I was projected to hit like 5'1" or something. So, which when I was a little kid, I was like, all right, whatever, I don't give a shit, right? But, point is, on the soccer field, when I was very young, when I was like 4 to 5 years old, I'd be on the soccer field and I'd always be really short, very much smaller than everybody else. And when you're very young and playing soccer, there's the beehive mentality, which you've probably seen if you ever watch 4-year-olds play soccer. Every kid on the field swarms the ball. Like, there is no structure. There's no 11v11 team structure. It's just swarm the ball, right? And I don't know if this is because I'm a genius or because I was just too small to be in the middle of that group and sort of fight it out, that I would always hover outside the group and just watch it from the outside and wait for the ball to pop out. And then I was faster than almost everybody. I would just grab the ball and be able to take it away and score. And I did that a lot of times. And it was really a pattern that I developed when I was like 4. I mean, honestly, I would stand outside the group, watch it, and then take advantage of being sort of the outsider. And I've been thinking that maybe this has something to do with my psychology as I got older. Maybe this is the reason why every time I'm in a group or any new social environment, I feel like I'm very likely to want to sit on the outside of it and come up with some idea that nobody else sees. I think it's not that I do it on purpose. I just think it's what I end up doing. It's like it's a characteristic. And I'm not saying I'm special. I'm not saying this makes me smarter. I'm just saying that this is a characteristic that I have, and it's a pattern throughout my whole life. Is this tendency to not go with the herd, really. It's like an innate, deep tendency. And again, I don't do it on purpose. But it makes people upset at me a lot. The herd gets mad at me in a lot of these situations. And this whole trans debate is the same thing. I lived in LA. When I was 25, I moved to LA. I lived there for more than 3 years. I mean, it was about 4 years. I worked there for 3.5 years. I mean, I was in West LA. I was in like liberal, lefty paradise, and all of my friends were left wingers, all of them. I considered myself pretty much on that side back then. I mean, I wasn't too political yet, but I think largely what happened was I was able to just sort of see the herd, the political herd that was there, right? I had lots of gay friends. I was in that, all my friends were tech developers and software developers, and all the women, there weren't too many women engineers, but the women I was meeting were all working in these companies. Every single person I met was just very left-wing. And I think that I just did what I did when I was 4 years old on the soccer field, which is kind of stand outside of it. And I really did identify this pattern. I really did see that there was this leftist ideology that I didn't like. I didn't like it. I still don't like it. I see it as dangerous. It's exclusionary. It's dangerous. They categorize 50% of the country as evil. And you can really see that that's why Trump won. Trump won largely because of all there's a sort of hatred of, everybody sort of knows what I'm talking about already. I'm not explaining anything new here. But, yeah. So I feel like so the other thing is I was always participating in the Super Smash Bros. Melee scene. And that's a community with a very interesting, has some unique properties, I think, socially speaking. The Smash Bros. Scene in particular. It's already amongst the esports, it's a unique kind of, it's a unique game within games. But it's also a unique social structure, because it exists in opposition to the company that created the game. Most games have the support of the company that created it, or they have at least the indifference of the company that created it. Melee exists in opposition to the company that made it. So that creates an interesting dynamic. All of the communities that spring up around the country and around the world based around this game are inherently grassroots. They emerge from the bottom up. And so this community is a strange structure. And I saw it over the years, probably, I would say around 2017-ish is when I started to sort of wake up to this stuff. But over 2017, 18, 19, I could see that the community was captured by this leftist ideology. And then in 2020, COVID hits, and I just watched what happens. And then in 2021, I put out that infamous tweet at this point. I mean, I don't know how many people saw it, but I just said trans women are not women. And that was it. That was the most controversial thing I could possibly say. And I said it. I know why I said it. So, one, I think it's true. Two, I knew that it was a deep contradiction of this leftist ideology. And I can explain why, but I've explained that in other videos. So I said it and they banned me, as I knew they would. And then, so now I'm making this video about a month after my second sort of cancellation, because, let's see. I put out a tweet in 2021, gets me banned. Not really a big deal because there weren't a lot of events going on because of COVID. Then I go live in North Carolina for a year. I get on the road for a few months. Then I land in North Carolina, stay there for a year, come back, hanging out here in Orange County. I see that there's an event being run at this brewery, late 2023. Start showing up to that. Nobody knows my name. I changed my tag from Mad Matt to Nomad, right? Started signing up. Went there a few weeks. Got the attention, right? Basically what happened was I appeared on stream one time at this event. Somebody recognized my face on stream, contacted the TO, said, hey, this guy's banned. TO contacts me. Again, this is now like early 2024. He says, hey, you're banned for transphobia. Then we had a weird back and forth for a couple of weeks. Me and him talked. Me and another couple of guys talked. They sort of allowed me back in under probation, apparently, under a sort of weird gray area. And then I was allowed to play for a year. So now we're hitting 2025. I have a full year, more than a year, of going there almost every week. Then somebody again in the scene finds my video I made back, I don't know how many months ago now, just titled Thoughts I'm Thinking, and that got me banned again. And then I had another cancellation. There was a big argument. I argued with them on a Discord server. I'm like super banned now. So here I am. I made an event. They got that canceled. That's where I'm at currently. I'm going to find another venue for another event and keep at it. Because what I really want to do, what I think the best thing for me to do is host events, create a community of my own that does not ban people for contradicting leftist thought. And that's it. That's really the best. That is the most important thing I can do as an individual, is create community that is liberal as I see it. Liberal in the sense that it accepts everybody. People on the left will say, oh, you cannot accept bigots and racists. And I will say, yes, we can. Really, that's really the whole controversy. They think that some section of the United States is irredeemable and should not be allowed into melee tournaments, and I'm going to prove otherwise by letting it happen and showing that we can actually all peacefully coexist. We can. That's really the final answer to what I would consider this semi, this weird pseudo-Marxist uprising, is that the right answer to it is the voluntary acceptance of those who don't agree with it, and putting them into the same space together and getting them to, I don't know what the right answer, really the right answer is to show them that there is, if you want to bring it all the way back, you really have to show them that there's such thing as objective truth, and there is such thing as evil and good. Those are real concepts that aren't just made up. They're not just social constructs. That's why gender as a social construct is such an issue. They say gender is a social construct. They say good and evil are social constructs. It's the same. That's the same spot. I would say good and evil come from evolutionary places, which gets back to what I was saying a while ago. There's a reason why Marx and Darwin were contemporaries. There's a reason for that. They were both talking about the same thing in the end. The same level of depth. So, what am I at? 2840. Okay. Anyway. This one is relatively pointless, this video. Just talking to talk. YouTube lets you upload infinite data. And so here I am. Uploading more. This is 146. It's May 4th, 2025. I'm just going to walk for another minute here and see if I think of anything else to say. Stand-up comedy was so fun. It really was one of the most fun things I've ever done. Those 3 minutes were unbelievable. I was like high for the rest of the night. Just from when I got off stage, people were like, yo, that was awesome. All my friends were like, yo, that was great. I was surprised. I didn't think I could be funny like that. I sort of just got on stage and like a character comes out, like a person, like it's weird because it feels like that's really real, the real me. That's what it felt like, because I actually got to just talk uninhibited, and that's partially what this channel is about. But the problem with this channel is there's no feedback. I'm just in the woods by myself here, so the pacing might be weird. It's hard to listen to. Like, I'll go back and listen to some of my old videos, and even I can't pay attention because I just drone on. I'm kind of just a droner, right? And so stand up, you at least have that feedback of the audience, and you know, like, so the video I uploaded maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago, was me doing 3.5 minutes, and that was my first like real set. They did give me a chance the week before that to go up on stage, and I went up for like 30 seconds, but I wouldn't call it like a real stand-up set because I was sort of just dipping my toes in for just a second. But even then I noticed something, because I was trying to make a joke about Sharia law and how they throw gay people off rooftops. I was trying to say something about that, and I had this one moment where using speech, I sort of crossed into a boundary everybody, basically what happened was everybody in the whole room went silent. I heard the oxygen get sucked out of the room just midway through a sentence I was saying. And that feeling, that like oxygen getting sucked out, was something. It felt like something. So that's where I want to go. If you listen to Louis C.K. talk about comedy, this is probably as close to this is as close to describing the philosophy that I would have, which is you want to touch the subject that makes the whole room go silent. You want to say the thing that makes everybody a little, you want to say the thing. When everybody goes silent, you know that you're onto something. You know that you're onto something. That's the important bit. So yeah, I'm gonna try and continue on that. I have another set sort of written in my head. I've been walking around now. When I do these walks, I walk around with an index card so I can write down notes. I've been coming up with notes for more comedy sets, and they're all controversial. Every single one. They're all trying to suck the oxygen out of the room and then play with that feeling. I think that's what's exciting. That's what my whole YouTube channel, a lot of my videos are about. That is, I mean, look at the titles of some of the videos. I'm like making the argument for racism, make the argument for homophobia. I want to be the guy. It's the same thing with the soccer field. I want to stand outside the group, do the thing nobody else is doing, and score with it. So anyway, maybe that's a good conclusion. Yeah, it's May 4th, 2025. Peace.